Evening, Ray. Right, I'm going to make a start on your Kral Puncher Knight. Yeah, we've already determined that the seal is coming from the area between the bottle adapter stroke valve block and the main action of the rifle. There'll be some seals inside of here which I suspect are the leak points. They usually just rock hard, like most seals. They go hard, they don't stretch, they won't seal. So we'll crack on with stripping this rifle down. So one of the main things on this is taking the scope rail, the trigger unit and the bottle and valve assembly off the action as a oneer. So there's a couple of screws to get it doing that. It's normally one on the top, which will allow the top rail to slide forward, and then the trigger units, the trigger and valve units. There's a little tiny pin in the back of there which holds that mechanism in, and then there are two screws that hold the rest of it in place. I've already taken the liberty of removing the anti-tampers off this rifle off camera. I didn't want to do it on camera for obvious reasons. I believe there's plenty of other videos out there that show that operation happening. And if there ain't, it's tough. So there's two grub screws underneath there. Undo those and then the whole assembly should slide forward. Now it can be a bit tight, but it'll come out eventually. Again, there are anti-tampers on the top, prevent you from getting the barrel off. Yeah, it just stops people from fiddling too much and making them overpowered, which is what they're designed. They're not designed to be 12 foot-pound air rifles. They're heavily restricted to work in the UK. In other parts of the world that these rifles are marketed in, they're probably doing upwards of 30, 40, 50 foot-pounds. In the bigger calibers, they're probably doing way more than that. Obviously in the UK we're not allowed that, so I ain't going to delve into that too much. Right, we'll take the remainder of the trigger unit off this now. The way to do these, the way to work on these now is we've got to undo those 4 screws to take this block out, but we can't pull the block out because it's attached to the bottle. We can't take that over the top of there, so the next thing is get the bottle off. These are usually in very, very tight, so it'll be a case of jam it in the vise and then hopefully we can unscrew that bottle off the adapter. Sometimes there's a 2-part adapter. Oh yeah, looks like what's happened here. So you've got the bottle with an adapter on that side, and there's a seal on there, and then there's on the other side of that adapter is another seal. We need a pin spanner tool to take the valve body off the bottle. Wow, that's a thread and a half. away, all the seals, adapter. Right, we take these screws out of here. To one side. That is the rest of the valve block. To fill the valve unit, we'll strip and sort there in a minute. My goodness, they like to get things tight, let's say. Gauge out of the block. I'll take the main inlet out. So that there is your main fire and valve stem. Just pop that back in there. Valve spring. And then inside of this portion here, there is where I suspect is the damaged O-ring. Because of the area on the gun where it was leaking from, it can only have been coming up from this top end. It'll have been that seal that's been passing, and it'll either be not big enough or it's been crushed. I'll give that a good inspect in a minute. We'll get this cleaned up. There can be a lot of sharp edges around these parts of these guns, and it's often those sharp edges that let down the sort of they're not very good for the lifespan of the seals, let's say. Sometimes the seals become crushed in position and cut through. Right, let's find some new seals. So we'll look at that. They're 116, I think. Alright, so we've got a BS 116. That'll be the bottle seal. That's pretty much the same size on the day states and other rifles like that, where the bottle fits direct to the gun without a removable valve like the Theobans or the FXs. 2.5 by 17 is the other side of that valve. Yeah, that'll do nice. 2 by 16 for the inlet valve. Yeah. It is a good fit. We'll use a bit of nice lubrication on them. Right, we won't put the bottle on the bottle thread just yet. So that wants to go on after all of this trigger mechanism. But that bit can screw into there. And that bit can screw into there. Just make sure that the spring seats down. There's a little pocket on the bottom for the seat, for the spring to seat into. Now this end needs to go in really, really tight, and it needs to align for the transfer port as well. Sometimes companies fit in seals that are too thick. Gives them a little bit better flexibility to align everything. However, it's not the best idea to use a cutting seal on things like air guns. So I need to take off a little bit of metal to allow that to seal properly in the right orientation. And what I'm going to do here, just so you can see what I'm going to do here, I'm going to machine a slight pass on the lathe of this face to allow it to screw further into the block to ensure that the holes line up where they should be. So what the manufacturers have done is they've fitted a big fat seal in there, and they've crushed it down to the point where they think, yeah, that's in the right area. However, they've only done it that way as a way of cheating, instead of individually making the components fit together and then put the transfer port in the right place. To be fair, they get away with it for 3 or 4 years. Nobody's any the wiser. So I know that that now goes in and lines up the transfer port nicely. Just push that bit of rag out, that was just there to stop any bits of metal swarf going further inside. Give her a clean. Tiny bit of lube on the stem. Stop that calling up. Valve spring. Seal. All that will go together and I'll be able to get that lined up perfectly. That's it. It's all about ensuring that the transfer port is pointing up and those divot screws are pointing straight down. I'll go with a little tiny bit more of that. If they're not in the right position, it just means that you're not getting the airflow directly through the gun like you should be, and likewise you're not getting alignment of the securing screws as good as they could be. That's better. Seals on the outside there are good. So we'll put that back inside of the action of the gun shortly. We need to put that back inside of here. First of all, make sure them springs are on the outside. The bottle back on there with this new O-ring. This wants to go through that and that. Right, so a little dovetail on the top of this rail engages with the groove in the top of the action. So that has got to align, and it can often be a royal pain in the arse to align. There we go. That's got that. Now, 5mm, the bigger 5mm hex screw on the top there. Realign the little shoe onto the trigger pivot. Put the little pin in. fiddly at times. I find the best way to put the rack in is to pinch them with a pair of pliers rather than a hammer at them, which just risks breaking something. Right. Now on this gun, the valve's on that side, and the sealers in the bottom of these are like, you know, super hard rubber stroke hard plastic, like a Delrin seal or something like that maybe. You can get them out, but you run the risk of damaging something, so I won't risk anything. I'll just leave the buggers in and check it for leaks before I go any further. The main sealers for leaking are internal now. We don't need to strip the full gun down to get at external sealers. If they're not leaking at the moment, I'm not bothered about touching them. They're that hard, you can. It's not worth the risk. That's what I'm trying to say. These are very similar to the earlier day state fill system. There should be a little seal on the side of there. That's the source of a lot of trouble on these little tiny O-rings. Well, how size is that? 1 mil by 1.5, 2. Two by 1. Ridiculous. Picked up a bloody old one. No what to do it. Right, so put a bit of grease on that. Fish that back through there. Give it a wiggle to allow all the holes and pins. That spring. That screw. Now with these, screw them down till they're just nip tight. That's it. People force these and bugger them all up. Right, 2 screws on the underside that locate and affix the firing valve mechanism into the action. They just need a nip down. They don't need to be super tight. People seem to think, it's holding back pressure. It's not. It's just stopping the thing falling out. They don't need to be that tight. And that is pretty much service done. Again, off camera, the anti-tampers were removed. I'm not going to do those on camera at this stage. I just don't know whether I really should be. There's a lot of work involved, the right fiddly. It's a bit of swearing, a bit of cussing. You'd laugh your socks off, mate. You really would. You'd be like, I don't know why you bother. sometimes I don't know why I bother. I just don't want other people knowing how I do it. They can go away. I'll shove some air in this. Right. So that's 718 feet per second with the GSB heavy, and 775 feet per second with the GSB exact 8.4. Happy days. I'll check that out over the course of the week. I'll top it up to 200 shortly once the cylinders acclimatised, got cool, and we'll take it from there. Alright, Ray, catch you later, pal.